Good evening and welcome to the Georgetown School Committee meeting of Thursday, February 8th, 2018. If we could please all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you all for coming out tonight. Seems like we haven't been here for a while. So we will begin the meeting with our consent agenda. I'll make a motion to approve Budget and Finance meeting minutes of January 18th, 2018, and acceptance of warrants 31V18 and 32P18.
So moved.
Second. Any discussion on those? All in favor? Aye. Thank you. Our student rep tonight is enjoying the play. She has a part in the play, so we'll miss her, but I'm sure the play will be a fun evening. Suzanne is not here tonight because she's also enjoying watching her son make his debut. His acting debut.
Yeah, it's going to be great.
I wish all the kids luck.
Yes.
Is there anyone here from the public that would like to talk about anything on the agenda? Okay. We do have Deb Allen to talk about some fundraiser that you'd like to propose. Come on up. Thanks for coming out tonight.
Sure.
We won't keep you long.
Okay.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about what you're thinking?
Sure. I'm Deb Allen. I have two daughters in the 5th grade, and a bunch of the 5th grade parents have gotten together, and we're trying to do fundraising for the 6th grade celebration, graduation, all that sort of stuff. You know, we have to raise $8,000. So one of the things that we're proposing,
Well, so why don't you just tell them what
the
composes of the
$8,000.
$8,000?
So they go to Cedardale, which is a big amount of money. We have to do a class gift. We have to do, some sort of giveaway at Cedardale. There's the graduation ceremony. We have to rent chairs. They get a couple banners that the kids sign. There's a time capsule. I know I'm missing a few things, but basically it comes out to $8,000. Yeah, I think Cedardale's
expense. It's like
$4,000
it's
dollars or something.
Yeah.
But it all adds up.
It all adds up.
Right,
yeah.
because I recall too, the kids get like
T-shirt or
gifts,
something.
like whether water bottles
Yeah.
or towels, things
Yeah.
like that.
And then the class gift has been in past years really expensive.
Nice. Yep.
I think we're hoping that we're going to bring down that cost a little bit because it's a lot of money for some of the things that we've done in the past. But basically, it's $8,000 that we have to raise. So
why do we have to rent chairs?
they don't have enough chairs for 6th grade graduation.
we have I think 300 chairs.
Okay.
But there's many more than 300 people who come to that ceremony.
300.
So you have to rent
wow.
300. Wow, how much does that cost?
I can't remember.
About $400 or $500.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, it adds up.
Yeah. Yeah, that's.
So we just sent out a letter to all the 5th grade parents asking for, instead of fundraising, we're trying to get everybody just to give $80. And that would cover the cost of
Per
everything.
child?
Per child, yeah. But we don't know how that's going yet. I mean, some people have donated, but we won't know that for a little while. So we're proposing other fundraisers, and the one I'm presenting tonight is an ongoing clothes drive. So kind of like you've seen around town, those Planet Aids, it would be something like that where it's a bin, and we're proposing putting it near the baseball fields. I think there's already something little down there. Mike Anderson suggested we put it next to that.
So like the preschool playground
Yeah.
right there?
Yeah. No.
No,
Sorry.
down by the
Pembroke.
baseball field.
Yeah, Pembroke.
Oh, but
Pembroke. So there's a
Pembroke.
parking
But
lot.
aren't you? But isn't there going to be one at Pearlie too?
There is one at Pearlie. but
Yeah,
that
that's for
goes
the
to
senior
council-
center.
that goes to the
I
council on
remember
aging.
that.
That's
one.
different.
Yes, you saw that one. They
Yeah.
came
Okay,
before
so
you.
so at Pearlie by the baseball field.
Pembroke.
Pembroke. Okay. I
By
had
that
Pembroke in
new
my mind.
yellow building
Yes.
down there.
Okay.
It measures about 6 by 5 by 5, I think. It's done with an organization called Echo Recycling. They're out of New Boston, New Hampshire. We get 5 cents a pound. They just collect clothes, shoes, linens, any sort of fabric material. They take all that stuff and they ship it to third world countries, and so all that stuff is reused. Anything that they can't recycle because it's, bad or whatever, they either figure out some way to use it another way, or they take a bunch of the clothes and they grind those down and they reuse all those fibers. So it's a family-owned business. They've been around since 1991.
Neat.
They sounded really great. I talked to the owner. He was super nice. So the bin would be on the property, and it's just like a bin anywhere in town. Anytime you want to, you can drop clothes in there. They empty it about once a week, depending on how full or how much use we're getting out of it. I would advertise it. I would put a flyer in backpacks, and we would just try and get people to put in there as much as we can. He said, so when you first drop it off, we get $250 right away. And then ongoing, like I said, it's 5 cents a pound. And he said that a bin holds about 800 pounds, which is about $40. So, it's not a huge amount of money, but it's something. And I think that it could be ongoing. We would have it there all year round. And my plan is that we'll start it for this 6th grade class, and then I'm thinking we pass it on to the next 6th grade class. So it's a fundraiser that's just constantly for this, end of year celebration for the 6th graders.
And how often do they come and pick
Like
it up?
once a week.
So you don't have to call, you don't
No.
have to like monitor it
No.
and stuff, they just.
Right. Unless it's, overflowing.
Overflowing,
Yeah,
yeah.
and then I can make a call and they'll come same day.
Right. I know my mom's church, they did this as in lieu of like a white elephant table. And I don't think it was just clothes.
So, yeah, this is clothes, shoes, and textiles.
Maybe it was. So,
Yeah.
and they made close to $500.
Oh, wow. That's great.
So,
I know Newburyport does it, and they have, I think, 5 bins throughout the town, and they make a couple $1,000s a year.
okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's really what you put into it. I mean, if it's successful, maybe we put one at the high school, and the high school does something with that money. But it's kind of just free money. So that's what I'm proposing.
I know at the senior center we had a question about at times.
Taking business away from them.
Well, I mean, taking business away, but also at times, it's clothes and shoes and textiles and that stuff. But often, some other stuff is left there. Is there a mechanism for cleaning that?
Yeah, I mean,
Stuff up.
they take what's ever there.
Okay.
They'll dispose of things that shouldn't be there.
Okay.
We should never have a time where there's stuff outside of the bin. I mean, it should all be inside, and if there's anything there, I would just make a call and make sure that they come to get it.
Okay.
I mean, there's always going to be people who dump stuff that shouldn't,
sure.
but, it is
You
what
don't
it
see
is.
couches.
Yeah, I mean, as long as
Yeah, no, it shouldn't be any of
it's
that.
textile.
Fabric.
Yeah, it's fabric.
It has to fit in the bin.
Well, there you go. That's the
In the
distinction
bin.
you need.
Yeah, right.
No, I think it's definitely, different, idea. I love
Right.
thinking out of the box.
Yeah.
Well, is
And
it-
who doesn't give clothes away, right?
Yeah.
I mean, everybody
Right.
brings stuff to
regular
Salvation
basis, I
Army or Goodwill. Yeah, right.
You don't always know
Might
other
go
children
against
that
the
are
plan
you're
talking
younger,
about.
yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, and the fact that it goes to a third world country is always
Nice. Yeah, it's nice.
nice. That's a lot of money you have to raise.
I
So
know.
good luck with
Thank
figuring
you.
out
It's a lot of
that.
numbers.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know. Do they still do the coin drive? Does the PTA do a coin drive?
They haven't.
You know, Margaret?
done it for a couple
No.
years, I don't think.
They did the box top contest.
Mhm.
Oh,
But none of
okay,
that
so-
comes to this.
Right,
Right,
yeah.
right,
this is
that's
totally
all.
That's a
separate.
PTA
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah, maybe PTA would,
So you're trying.
Help
So you're gonna.
subsidize.
This is one idea,
This is
and
one
then you're
idea.
gonna. You're gonna talk about. You're gonna try to get donate. Outright
Yep.
checks.
Right.
Were there other things that you're working
Yep.
on?
So in November, we're going to do a bake sale at the election.
that's
okay.
always good.
That's a good one. I know that last year they raised almost $2,500 at that one.
That was popular.
We're talking about doing a 2025 sweatshirt where it would be, a customized class of 2025, and we think it's going to say Georgetown on the back. And initially we'll just sell it to the 6th graders since it's going to say 2025, but we're hoping that it's a sweatshirt they'll wear forever. So we're not going to put Pembroke on there at all. We're just going to make it a generic sweatshirt. So we're trying to figure out pricing on that. But again, maybe if we made, $20 a sweatshirt and 90 kids bought it, it's still not that much money.
Georgetown Royals would apply to all grade levels, right?
Right,
Even
but
though
we
it's
wanted to put the
BAA.
class.
You want 2020?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although,
right.
we could, if it's successful, we could make it for every class and sell it that way. I didn't even think of that, but that's a thought. Bake sale. I think we'll do the bingo thing that they're doing now. That's a fundraiser for
Valentine's Day.
That was a good one. I think there's a dance that they're proposing where we make money off the entrance. Just a bunch of little things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure you'll do well.
They make it
They-
every
they
year.
always
They
do
always
every
do.
year. I
Somehow they
know.
pull it out.
It is
But
true.
I think we're just trying to do something different because people get tired of the same things year after year.
Right. Well, I wish you the
Sure
best
you
of
will.
luck.
Thank you.
I
Thank
will
you.
make a motion to approve the request by Deb for the bin to be placed on the property of Pembroke for is it the sixth grade celebration?
It's a
Yeah.
2025.
The sixth
20
grade
class of
celebration. Class of
2025.
2025.
Yeah.
So, second.
Any further discussion on it? No? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Deb.
And I'll
you.
just work with Mike.
Yep.
Okay.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Mike and Margaret, I would say. Keep
Okay.
Margaret in the loop too.
Now we have the budget.
Yep.
Okay, yep, here we go.
So we have a couple of sessions we're gonna do with the budget, and now we just added March 1st as the public hearing, so we'll definitely be publicizing that and putting it on the blog and, every other source that we have. But tonight, the goal would be to just walk you through the initial presentation of the superintendent's recommend budget for FY19. You're obviously familiar with the format of the book. We tried to keep
Yeah, it
that
looks great.
somewhat consistent.
does.
So I'll just start by, kind of highlighting a few things that I wrote in the letter. So basically, when we sat down with the town, Suzanne and I were there, because we do attend the town department head meetings, and the town administrator discussed the budget. One of the things he talked about was he wanted everybody in town, all the departments in town, to come in with a level services budget. And as we've talked about before, level services means exactly what you have this year, although accounting for contractual obligations and fixed costs that might go up. So that is exactly what we did. And we tried to keep in mind the priorities that the school committee identified, the administrative team identified. Now, clearly, I want to say right up front that there were things that we identified that we need that are not in this budget. In particular, we had hoped to be able to add back one teacher at Pembroke, because as you know, over the last couple of years, when we had lower enrollment at certain grades, we cut a position, so instead of having 5 of each grade, we have 4 at 2 grades. And then that bubble sort of moves through, and sometimes the makeup of the class, sometimes it's not just about the number, there's other things, other factors. So I know Margaret had felt strongly and had made a really good case for adding a 4th grade teacher back. Unfortunately, it's not in this budget. The other thing that we were looking for was an additional special education teacher at Pembroke. Again, not in the budget. And then Jack made a case for some additional support in the social emotional program at the middle school, particularly as students transition from elementary to middle. Sometimes that transition can be difficult, especially if some students have some social emotional needs. So we do have a program there, but the goal was to add some additional kind of therapeutic support in the form of like a 0.4 counselor or therapist or something in a support kind of role. That is also not in here. So the operating budget that we're requesting for FY19 is $15,090,202, which actually represents a 4.45% increase over this year FY18 budget. Now, again, when we made the initial budget, and Barbie and Michael worked with us as well, we had our original budget request just to keep what we have was about a 6.7% increase, which we know probably is outside of the boundaries of what the town would be able to afford. So with that in mind, we decided to go in and look at the budget and try to see if there was anything that we could do to bring that number down without cutting staff and without sacrificing the quality of the programs and services that we currently have in place. So I list for you a list of the things that were in our initial request that are not in the request that we're bringing before you. And that starts with the $144,000 for those staff members that I just talked to you about. $25,000 is initially when we were talking about our goals, as you know, as the athletic budget is not to increase fees because we do have some of the highest fees in the state. And the goal was to get something in the budget to offset that. So if you remember, out of the athletic budget that costs about $300,000, we have a little over $100 that's in the budget from the budget and choice combined. But there's still a gap that has to be filled by user fees. Not increasing user fees, we thought at least if we could start to put a small amount of money in the budget, because all the athletic expenses are going to go up. And if there's no additional revenue to offset that, as you know, we end up having to cover the deficit of the athletic budget every year at the end of the year, because it doesn't make it now. And so that's not going to be any better at the end of the year. So we tried to put $25,000 in the budget, but we ended up taking it out to get the number down, understanding that it's still an unsustainable situation in athletics. $20,000, we transferred the cost of one special education paraprofessional that was in the budget to the IDEA grant, which Jack felt that grant could absorb. So again, we maintain the position, we're just shifting the source. And then finally, the $136,000 is a special ed expense for a student that no longer resides here, but we're in the process of discussing who's financially responsible for her. So we're going to figure it out, but right now it is not in the budget. So we just need to be aware that could change if we hear something different from DESE, but we will see. So taking those things, that brings us down to the 4.45% increase. And then I just want to also point out that, again, I think just it, but it also looks like the town looks at this as well. And I want to be sure that everybody in town understands that we are putting together the budget for this year. But this is the third year in a sequence where we have been reducing our requests every year and making cuts in the order of $200,000 to $400,000. And by doing that, we've shifted things to revolving accounts and other sources that are going to make those things unsustainable in a few years. So for me and for the administrative team, and we hope for the school committee, we really want to start to really talk about a longer range vision. And so about in the middle of the page, I describe kind of what that looks like going forward. So we might be able to, if this budget was approved by the town and the school committee and then the town, next year we could provide the same things that we provide this year. But the following year and a couple of years after that, we are going to run into a problem with some of our revolving accounts. For example, our school choice, I explain in here that based on the number of students we have that are currently seniors, I'm sorry, we don't have any graduating seniors this year, but next year we will have, I think, 8 seniors, and then the following year, I think there's 7 or 8 juniors, and then the following year there's 6 or 7 freshmen. So within that period of time, 50% of the kids that are in the choice budget will go away, and we have $179,000 worth of expenses in that account. If that money doesn't sustain itself, just like we had to do before, that some of those things have to come out, maybe slowly over 3 years, but they've got to go somewhere. They're essential services, they're teachers, and part of it is $33,000 in choice for athletics. So that would make athletics even more unsustainable if they had to shift off there. Preschool is based currently this year, all the things we have on the preschool revolving account are based on 128 students, I think. And already we don't know what the enrollment's going to look like next year, but based on the initial information night, the numbers may be lower. If that's the case, then the things that we're affording on that account will not fit. I didn't put it in here, I thought about it after, but Jack and I sat together and talked about the special education students on the out-of-district students. And looking at 2 and 3 years out, there are a number of high school students on the list, but none of them will be leaving within 3 years, because they are students that will probably receive services until they're 22. So it's not likely that will affect the budget in a way. So I think the problem needs to just be conveyed that, and the other thing that I noted was, by 2020, we're going to have to, unless the enrollment changes, we're going to have to add those teachers back at Pembroke, because we're going to need 5 of each grade. Or if we don't, we're going to increase the class sizes above, that was one of our goals, was to have reasonable class sizes. So having said all that, it's important to look at it, that it's going to be a challenge for us going forward, even if we get this budget this year. And I know we appreciate the financial challenges that the town is facing. And when we talked with Joe Bonavita and Ed Doby, I'm really hopeful that the town is really looking, forward to figuring out some funding sources that, are not necessarily raising taxes. Although none of those things are going to happen immediately. I was personally encouraged to think that there's some thinking along that way. So with that said, I put in there, I always want to thank people for the work. Putting a budget together is not something that you do, in a short period of time. It takes a lot of thinking, a lot of planning, a lot of moving. It's like a big jigsaw puzzle you have to put together, and you have to talk with all kinds of people and all kinds of people to figure out exactly how it all comes together. So there are many people to thank, and Barbie and Michael, top of that list, the administrators, Suzanne for sure. Poor Suzanne's been here just a couple years, and she knows where everything is. Every question I ask, she's got it right on the tip of her tongue. So it didn't take her long, but it's complicated, right? Because there's a story behind every number, and I think our goal has been to be as transparent as possible. So, giving all that detail does take time. And so thank you, Suzanne. You did a great job. And poor Nancy, she's been here 2 weeks, and, she got kind of thrown into putting the budget book together. So, it does take a lot of effort and a lot of work on the part of a lot of people, and a lot of people deserve thanks for that. So, if you want, what we could do is just walk you through a couple of documents, and then, the principals and Colin and Jack can certainly help if you have any specific questions. But, as we always do, under tab D, we started with budget assumptions. Now, those budget assumptions are ones that we do every year, and some were a little different this year. But clearly, the first one was we built the budget on a level service. It includes no new positions. We obviously paid attention to set the contractual obligations, some of which are set already. We're in a multi-year contract with some groups, but we are this year we are negotiating raises with the teachers and then the administrators, food service personnel as well, but that doesn't hit the budget. We didn't touch any of the funding. We basically did not help our situation with our revolving accounts. Basically everything that was on those revolving accounts is still on those revolving accounts, and the only change we made was the $20,000 para to Jack's grant. Tuition and transportation, in order to get down a little bit, what we did do is we usually budget 4% in out-of-district tuition lines, just off the top. In looking at it, we decided that instead of 4, this budget is based on a 3% increase. We base it again on the actual number of special education students, and I'm really hopeful that maybe we can continue to talk with the town about some kind of maybe a reserve account, or some kind of a way to help us once our budget is set, and then if extraordinary expenses come, rather than freeze the budget or cut, services, that we can discuss what are our options that we could work together on.
With the exception of that one student. We did take that one
We
student
took that one student out, that's right. So non-salary lines were increased by 1%, which is basically nothing. And we did have some technology increases, though, 3%, but because, as you know, we have to make sure we have hardware and software that we need. We have subscriptions that go up every year. We have infrastructure upgrades that we have to make sure that we can do. And we're supporting phase 2 of the one-to-one iPad initiative at the middle high school. That's primarily additional, some iPads for students who are on scholarship more than anything else. Because as you know, the parents pay for, for most of the iPads. Reasonable class sizes, and that's consistent with what we did this year. We really, at the elementary level, do not want more than 25 kids in a class, and obviously the lower the grade, we prefer lower than that. And at the middle high school, same thing, 25 in middle school, and we don't want any high school class that has more than 28 kids in it. And many have smaller numbers because of just the way, the nature of the class, like maybe an AP class or a business class or something. And sometimes just the nature of how you schedule, there are conflicts, and sometimes you have a big biology class and a little biology class because that's where the kids fit. But reasonable class sizes has always been the mantra in Georgetown for as long as I've been here, and before that as well, is people didn't want large class sizes. But we also, it's important to say, we don't have small class sizes either. I mean, some districts and schools will say, if you have more than 16, 18 kids, that's a large class. We're not there. We're definitely in the low to mid 20s, and sometimes a little higher than that, depending. Let's see. And then really the other part is just the revolving accounts that I just talked about. And then, no additional positions, but I want to make sure that they get noted that those were requested by the principals. And we didn't even talk about interventionists this year, but we can always use that, because we definitely still, even though we're no longer a leveled school, and actually I'm waiting to find out a little more, but it sounds like, based on that information that came from Desi, that they're looking at not leveling schools in the new accountability system anyway. So hopefully that's the case, and they're going to look for remediation or support to the lowest 10% of the schools in the state, as opposed to the lowest 20%. So we have a plan. We're continuing with our plan, but we didn't.
That's a good thing.
I don't know, yeah.
You don't know that it's a good thing?
I don't know if that's a.
I think it's a good thing because,
I mean, Ed, I just saw it on the news that Massachusetts, again, is the top-rated, public education state, number one, which is great.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I don't know if that's.
Well, I think you'll still see that, but I think it's,
You have to assume good intention and an understanding of districts and how to help the lowest performing students. And I'm not sure, I have very great confidence in our district, but I mean, there are other districts in the state that I don't have such confidence in.
and in addition to no new staff, there's also no new program services or curriculum included in this budget. So, I know Colin has mentioned, that there's some interest in the middle school of looking at STEM scopes, which is a continuation, obviously, of our science curriculum. We're not at the stage where we would recommend that, but it isn't included. There is no additional money built into this budget for that. That might be something, if you had money and choice, you would go to, because it'd be a one-time expense. But I just paint the picture of that's not in good shape. And then the following pages are based on the tabs and what changes. Now, as you can see, last year there was more detail on here, but basically the main changes in each of the budgets, the increase that we're talking about, is salaries. It's the salaries of the current people. Because as you can see, other than funding, non-salary lines is 1%, everything remains the same. At the Pearly School, basically we changed the lines to reflect contractual obligations, and I told you a little bit more about the projected revenue. Pembroke goes up 4.5%, but again, it's salaries. Same thing with middle high school. Same thing with the high school, and the joint, there's a little change because we have the principal is retiring, and we have one retirement there as well. A very talented art teacher, Nora Cannon, is retiring this year. Yep, and then the cost of the outside contract with the athletic training services. If you remember, there was a switch last year, a little change last year, and we hired our own in-house trainer as opposed to an outside consultant, but that's resulted in a slight increase, in the budget. In terms of curriculum instruction, that's a 3% increase. And you can see, there's a salary adjustment line, which is, you know, sort of the placeholder for the salaries that need to still be negotiated. The district technology has an increase for computer support. And then the non-salary technology lines go up to 3% for all the upgrades I told you about. Regular education transportation, Suzanne just put the bid out on the street
On Monday.
on Monday, so we will see where that goes, but, you know, there is a slight increase based on the current market rates. You know, it's unlikely the rate will go down, and it's probably just as unlikely it'll stay the same. But we'll be in a situation once we see what the bids are, you know, if you want to continue to talk with North Reading about a continuation of the bus bid, you know, that'll be on the table as well. And did you have a question?
Did we budget that at 3%?
3%. Professional development lines, you know, are decreased because we're taking advantage of our own staff. And the long-term substitute lines, you know, that's been a really tough line to control. But you can see the long-term subline and the regular sublines are underfunded based on historical information. So basically, it's caused an increase. We have an increase in the long-term leaves taken by the staff. So when we compared it to the revised budget, the fluctuation is caused by the need to transfer funds from one subline to the other. That's basically why that change happens. Athletics, you know, I tell you what the 122,517, those funds include, you know, operation of the lights on the turf field, contracted services for maintenance, salary of the assistant athletic director, salary of part-time athletic trainer, and the partial cost of athletic transportation. Those are all the things that kind of comprise that 122. And then, as we talked about, 33,000 continues to come from school choice.
Now, where do refs fit in game expenses?
They come out of the
revolving.
athletic revolving account.
Okay, so that's, got it.
Yeah, along with some of the salaries of the coaches. You know, everybody doesn't fit.
Okay.
Buildings and grounds, basically, there was an increase because the staff will all be paid for a full year. There were some transitions there, right? Because it says they were hired after the fiscal year began, and it was prorated, and now it's based on the real cost. And special education, so combined special education and tuition increased by about $21,000 over the revised budget. Because there were 2 students are graduating and 1 student is the one I was telling you about that we're still waiting to find out if we're responsible. And then we increased special ed contracted services by 4%, based on the fact that those outside services go up too. They cost more, you know, per need. So the recommended budget, as I said, is $15,090,202. $195,000 is projected in school choice. That's based on 39 students with no seniors. And circuit breaker, and again, circuit breaker, I think I told you before, is not, right now the reimbursement rate is not 75% as it's been in the past. It's 65%. I'm really hopeful that the legislature is going to make some adjustments on that, but $397,669 is, you know, what we're looking at for circuit breaker tied to this budget. And then, go ahead, Pam, sure.
Can I just ask, this projected choice, is that built on an assumption that we're gonna have a certain number of slots available?
We haven't discussed slots.
Right.
Right.
But that's the 39, that's
the current
current.
That's what we have now, so this
Right.
is if we did not open up.
That's right. This is if every
Okay.
kid that's in choice stays
Stays
in
in choice,
Georgetown,
yeah.
you know,
Right.
they would be charged there.
Right.
And sometimes that doesn't happen, you know, sometimes for whatever
Oh,
reason,
right.
people, you know,
Absolutely, they-
go back to their, you know,
Their
own district
own
or
districts,
something,
yeah.
yeah. And then, of course, you know, any individual line we can discuss with you. So that would be the highlights, I think.
I think the number that's most concerning to me is the special ed, that the one student.
Yeah,
Because
that's
that's a
concerning.
large amount of of money. Yeah, I'm sure it's very concerning to you.
Yes.
So that is, like, if it does come out that Georgetown is responsible for it, that's quite a
Quite a lot
large
of money, yeah.
amount. I
Right,
mean,
so we
that's-
will have to,
It's a 1%.
we will have to figure that out, you know. Jack is going to be, working with, Jack continues to work with other districts, and so sometimes there's, opportunities for tuition. You know, sometimes other districts will take our children if we want them to do that, and sometimes we can take other children, and Jack's had a couple of inquiries about that. That, if that money were to come, that could be a part of an offset, you know, to this as well, but yes, it's very concerning.
Do we have a timeline as to when you would know?
You know, I don't know, I'm guessing, would you know, Jack, do you have any ideas on that? Would that be just like a couple months, a few months?
Well, I mean, we've gotten an initial.
We did get an initial, but we are definitely
We're appealing
appealing.
the process.
Is it like a thick envelope, thin envelope kind of a thing that when we get it in the mail?
Well, if we're,
We have 60
Writing.
days to complete our appeal.
Our appeal, yeah.
yeah, so we're.
And then
appealing
they have X amount of time to respond to our appeal.
Okay. And the athletics, to me, I know in the budget and finance, in our meetings, we talked about the 25,000, and I get it that we had to get to a number that we felt was an acceptable number, but what do we have for options to make sure that athletics doesn't, I mean, it's been a problem for years, and if we're not gonna increase the user fees, I know that Mike and I know that Ryan is working on, you know, different ways of bringing in money, which is great. But it's just,
But it's like,
Yeah.
it's like the Deb's point, right? You know, it's $8,000, but she's raising money, you know, $2,000 at a
Yeah, I know,
time,
40
right?
cents a pound.
So,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
it sort of gets to that kind of a challenge.
yeah, I just.
Does, and to the point about the camps, is any revenue from the camp in the budget
No.
anywhere? So we're assuming, okay, so that's,
So we're assuming that if
Some
that happens,
potential.
that would help us.
Potential. Yep.
Yep.
is there any turf and use of facilities money revenue in here? Or are we kind of don't budget and
No.
No.
it's kind of
not in
bonus?
there.
I mean, I know it's not a big number, but
Well, we hope it can be a bigger number because we can, now that Pembroke Fields are back online, you
Yeah.
know, there may be some time in the summer I mean, Mike's marketing that.
I was going to say, has anything, and not, that sounds like I'm being critical.
No.
Is that generating, because I know we did a big
Interest,
push
yeah.
back in the spring, I guess. Did anything come of it?
I think he had a
Realistically?
few.
Mike has some rentals,
He has
you
some
know,
more
but
rentals,
but
but
we'll
I
get
don't-
you more information about that, you know.
And I didn't, did I?
Yeah.
I know
Yeah.
it's,
Well,
Small.
but those are the kind of things where you can, you know, and as I said in there, our coaches, you know, at least for the last 2 contracts that I've been involved with, have not received a raise. And, you know, you want to get and keep good coaches, right? So you want to
We
be
had a lot of
competitive, but, you know, again, and we've really tried to offer a great program with what we've got. But you're right, Barbie, we've got to come up with, it can't be everybody's fundraising for the basics. Like we talked about the uniform situation. You know, I mean, freshman basketball and JV basketball, you know, really need the
Right, and when you're
uniforms.
paying a large user fee, then you do expect, you have expectations, a certain expectation,
So
but.
let's see, so this year, I think Michael had asked us, so tab K has a little more information than we've
Which I
been able to
appreciate.
provide in the past, which I know Michael appreciates, and you probably will as well. You know, the various tables break down, you know, rather than just looking at one big spreadsheet with all kinds of numbers, it breaks down, tells a little bit more, a clearer story, I think. But as you can see, you know, some sports definitely technically lose money, right? And others make money, you know, just to be able to have this delicate dance of, you know, the number of sports that we offer.
I think it was helpful for me to see the impact of the family cap, because I know we talk about it a lot, but it's not,
Right.
I mean, it's $7,500. It's a lot of money, but it's not a huge
Right, doesn't help.
Well, for
reduction.
the, yeah,
I'm
and
for
this,
the,
I mean,
I'm
it
sure
still
that
is
for
a
those families
large,
it's huge.
yeah, yeah,
But sort
but
of
for
district wide,
us.
it's not huge. My other comment is you often talk about athletics being $300,000. It's more of a $400,000.
Okay,
It's creeping up.
it's creeping up.
So let me just, I don't know, Suzanne, if you know this information, but I'm gonna throw it out there anyways. Who determines what sports has a gate fee? Or what level of sports? Because I know that we charge for JV, but most of the out-of-town games that we go to, they don't.
Really?
So I just,
Some of them
Well,
they don't.
well,
some of them
MIA,
do.
I would
One
think
this season
MIA would
charged.
have
Okay.
well, MIAA
Was
probably has a recommendation for some
That
sports,
was Bishop
but I
Homewood.
think it's probably a local decision if you want to charge for like JV games. You know, I don't think the MIA requires that. I think,
Okay.
I think we probably
Yeah,
make
but I
the
know that
decision.
like the parent, like I know parents do get a discount and siblings
Yes.
do get a discount, but I know when the Georgetown parents go to other games and they don't get charged, and then they're saying, oh,
Yeah, you
you know,
feel
I pay
bad.
the $475 to Georgetown and now I'm also
I
paying,
can't even watch the game.
yeah. And I was just wondering, you know,
I
if
think
there
it's
was
a
a,
local
if it is
decision.
just a,
We can ask Guy about that, but
Yeah.
my guess is it's just a local decision, unless it's like a tournament game or something like that,
Yeah.
then I think the MIAA takes a cut of that gate too.
Just
Yeah.
it's
So I'll ask him.
minor, but that doesn't show up.
Say
on
what?
the gate only shows up for football, baseball, and
Basketball, probably.
well, no,
Oh, because we charge at basketball.
softball.
do we charge a
I don't think
softball? I don't think we
In
do.
terms
Never
of
paid. I've never paid, I mean, I've never seen people, maybe they
I'm
do.
reading.
Okay, ask about
Basketball.
who determines,
Field, no, that's not.
who
Yeah,
determines
varsity girls.
Girls
Oh,
basketball.
What
varsity girls
sports get
basketball, not
gate
baseball.
fees?
Sorry.
It's
Yeah.
both basketball.
And then it says field hockey?
No, I think it's, the one above it.
Oh,
yeah, basketball, I know
basketball.
we definitely do, but I don't
Boys
think
basketball
I don't think I've ever seen a gate
and
at
girls
field hockey.
basketball. No, it's not in field hockey.
Again, not a
okay.
huge.
But there's nothing, the line itself for JV boys basketball, there's nothing there, so I wonder if that 6,300 is combined?
It could be. I'll have to check with Guy on that.
Yeah.
So we'll get a couple of answers from
I know they
Guy.
do I know they do the numbers too, like as you go in, they
Yes.
mark off how many people are going in.
But it is very, it is very concerning because it really isn't a sustainable situation right now.
I think the best part about the new way we're looking at the budget is athletics is losing $20,000.
Yes.
Assuming all goes,
Right,
assuming we don't go into any tournaments,
right.
which obviously we don't want to root for that to happen. I mean, sort of best case as of now is that we're going to have a $20,000 deficit.
And
which
that's why I
is-
think we were looking at if he could at least put 25,000 in.
Right.
You know, at least we could make up the difference. You don't go you don't dig yourself a bigger hole.
Right.
I guess how I look at it though too is when we're cutting these numbers, like we already know that the 25,000 that we cut is gonna have, you know,
We have to find
most
it
likely
anyway.
we're gonna have to find it eventually. We already know that, you know, special ed, we always do 4%, we did 3%, so let's hope, but
Hope for the best.
you just wonder, are we cutting these things to get to a number, but yet,
We are cutting them to get to a number.
yeah, and then we're
I
gonna
mean,
end up
I mean,
having
we would have been
to.
happy to go in with 6.7%
Yeah,
increase.
I know,
you
it's just not.
And that's why I think we need to make it clear that all of this stuff is a risk. It's putting pressure on, you know, in order to just survive and do what we're doing. You know, we can't go to our revolving accounts anymore, which we had been able to do in the past. Our grants are not getting bigger, right? They're based on an allocation. They're not getting bigger. And, you know, we're putting the things we think are necessary to continue to provide the operation, you know, the core operation, you know, and maintain the buildings because now we have more surface area to, you know, to take care of, and the town has, rightly so, expectations, because that's the number one thing we heard when we talked about building a new school. Well, I hope you're not gonna allow
Right.
what happened to the old Pembroke, you know, to happen to the new school, and I really am very proud of the way the That building looks, 3 years later.
I'm proud of all the buildings.
Yeah,
think
right,
they all look
exactly.
great.
I mean, all of them look so much better,
All
but
look
they're
great.
they're being maintained now, which they really
Sure.
weren't before. So, I think we're trying to get the most we can out of the dollars we have. So again, we're concerned as well, and if we all are in agreement that we need to make a case for a bigger number with the town, then, so be it, but, we tried to move things that we thought were
The least impact.
the least impactful, that's right.
And I think you've done a fabulous job of doing that for the past number of years. But, to make the budget numbers that we've been given, so last year we cut 4.1 full-time positions, including 1.6 teachers. The year before, we cut 9.5 total full-time positions, including 4.8 teachers. The year before, we cut 4.8 total FTEs, including 1.8 teachers. So, every year we manage to kind of match that up with enrollment dips so that we can, maintain the quality. But it's a roller coaster, it's an enrollment dip. And now we're getting, so I'm.
Yeah, next year it's
enrollment
Yeah,
is
well,
pretty
as,
steady.
as you put now, as you said, we have cut to the
kids.
bone. And so now,
Right.
if there's any more cuts, it's like, it's complete.
It's programs.
It's
and people.
programs, and the one that's really concerning to me right now is this teacher at Pembroke. I mean, so, would this teacher that we really need to have be fourth grade, is that what you said?
That's what we said, right,
Or is it-
Margaret?
That's what I would like to have happen.
So, what is our class size gonna be in fourth grade?
Well,
If we don't have
again,
that
as Carol mentioned, it
teacher.
really isn't the class size for that particular grade.
Mm-hmm.
It's an extremely needy grade. There are just significant issues in the grade. So when we have 4 classes this year in third grade, and again, just the makeup of the classes are extremely difficult. So it really isn't so much the number as when we're looking at each class and the challenges that it presents.
Right.
It's like workload versus caseload.
Right,
Okay.
It's 88 kids.
So.
Is your expectation to, I know we're not adding a physical person, a physical body, but to redirect something to support that class, or just
Well, that's
Kind of hope
the
for-
Solomon's choice. Do I take a teacher from another grade for that? But then where do I do that? Because other grades do have higher numbers. So I increase class size. So it really,
and you
To
don't
be
want to address
honest,
the fourth
I
grade
wait-
problem and cause a problem in the third grade.
That's right. So there's
Right,
20, there'll be
I'm really
22
waiting for
kids.
the budget.
Right,
to-
and then parents will be like, you're taking,
Yeah.
you're
It's not really
you're
either,
sacrificing, right,
it's
you're
not.
sacrificing my, yeah.
Yeah.
That's tough.
Yeah, it's very hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the two, so I think for me at the revolving accounts are the scariest. We
Yeah,
talked about
I
certainly.
agree.
I think one of my big concerns is that the Pembroke After School is now, which has long been a revenue generator, is running a deficit for next year, according to the budget, which is scary because that won't last forever. It's a deficit of about $17,000. But I think the really scary one for me is preschool revolving. Because so we're budgeting at 128 students, which if that number is, I guess my question is, when will we know what that number is? And I know at the end of the summer. But can we address staffing that late? So if we're not getting the revenue, can we affect the expense side of the budget in August or September when we actually know that number?
is just gonna send out,
well, a
she's
lottery
recruiting.
will happen in March. So that really will be the first time we
Real
have
indicator.
somewhat of an indication of what classes will look like.
Okay.
So, we at least have until then.
Mhm.
But Amanda did send me today, I didn't print it out, but it looks like the projections of the students that are leaving to go to kindergarten and what that opens up.
Mhm.
And there are probably about 12 to 13 per class. that will be open. And again, it's hard to know, that's like, if it's a Monday and it opens up 7, and it's Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then Tuesday, Thursday are 10, but you could have somebody who wants all 5 days. So but based on right now, that's what it looks like it might open up.
I think my fear, though, is that the budget is running a $50,000 deficit with sort of our best case scenario. 128 I know is a great number, and it's higher than we've been in the last couple of years. Sort of best case revenue matching best case expenses in terms of salaries and everything else that's in that account. If the revenue drops, like to your point of we have needs of a 5-day and half days and we can't adjust, it's not a one-to-one adjustment. And we're already have a deficit of $50,000, it's not long before that's a potentially bigger deficit, and that's a scary.
Yeah, and we don't, obviously, and I know you agree, we don't want to wait until August to tell somebody if they don't have a position.
For sure, yeah. Oh, that's the worst.
We would have to reduce the
Decide.
section if we didn't have kids. That's how,
Right.
that's what would happen. And we usually let teachers know if they're not renewed, or if we're doing something by June 15th.
Okay. That's okay.
That's the day.
Yeah.
Yeah, again, I think the point to continue to make to the town, if we go in with this budget or we go in with a slightly larger budget, is again to make them understand that as Pam just did a really great job of saying, this is what happens when you start at a certain point of things you need, right? And then you have regular reductions. At some point, the strategies that have worked before just can't work anymore. And that's why I think we just have to make the case that this is where we are now. This is where we were 3 years ago. This is what we've done. This is where we are now. And this is what it looks like 3 years from now. And it's not gonna be the programs and services that we are used to and what the town said they want. So that's why, I don't know if the discussion is, at what point do you look at an override? At what point is the 10-year projection, think, how's the marijuana money gonna be used? What's the town's strategy financially? Not just to fund the schools, but I think if the police chief was sitting here or the fire chief was sitting here, they're gonna argue that they're fighting for their life to maintain what they have, because their increases are going up as well. They have contractual obligations, they have fixed costs that, they have costs they can't control to some extent. They have equipment needs that have to be fulfilled. I mean, there's just a lot, so I think that's just part of what the town just has to hear, that we get it, that everything's tight. I'm hoping the state at some point is gonna, although what did Mike say today, that there was 60,000 of new money or something like that, but, so it's not going backwards, it's going forward, I just feel like we need to see this laid out. Somebody needs to lay all this out in terms of what the revenue looks like, even in the next 5 years, to determine whether there's gonna be enough to not only fund the schools, but to fund the other town departments as
Well,
well.
it would be helpful if, whatever this increase in state revenues are, if towns and municipalities could see that same increase from the state.
Yeah, Mike's talking about, some excise tax on recreational marijuana that, is gonna come to the town. But, it's almost like you wanna see the FY, and just like see it plotted out, like, okay, so what's likely to be, what's likely to hit when, and how could that work? He talked today about, doing some things with health insurance. They've got a consultant that is, trying to negotiate, better prices with providers, and if he gets a little relief there, then that helps overall. But I just think we have to make sure everybody understands that we are not in a position to shift anything anymore. In fact, if anything, some of those things are gonna need to start coming back in the budget, and that's, sticking to a 4% increase isn't gonna be possible unless stuff gets cut. The other thing that's kind of a wild card in the next 3 years we were talking about it today, is retirements. Like, I don't know, I don't have a crystal ball to say, you know, in the next 3 years, there's gonna be, you know, money, you know, saved there. But as Michael, we were talking about it today, you know, the amount of savings that you might have gotten years ago when you had a veteran teacher leave and a new teacher come is much smaller, because the people who are coming now have a master's degree. So it's no longer you're looking at a bachelor's 1, 2, or 3 and someone going out at $70,000. That's typically not what we're seeing. So, you know, that can't be looked at as the savior either, you know? So.
Jack, what is moving the special ed tuition, is it just tuition, the 4% that became 3, or is it tuition and transportation?
Transportation.
It was tuition, it was just tuition.
Just tuition?
Yeah.
What is that, or maybe it's just, what is, going from 4% to 3%, what is that
What's the number?
dollars wise?
Well,
So I know there's 4 different things changing in that same line.
for the tuition, it was about 13,000, and then the transportation in the original budget, I didn't add in the 4%, but this one I did add the 3% to the transportation. So
Okay.
it was total about 13.
About 13, okay, so it's not a huge.
No, 'cause originally we thought we were gonna take 11 out, and then we decided not to because it wasn't clear. Yeah, it's not a, it
So that's
wasn't
not a-
significant.
okay.
It wasn't a huge
Okay.
amount of money.
But, you know, $11,000 is $11,000, but it just wasn't we felt it could be, we felt that could be a calculated risk that we might be able
Right.
to take.
And a couple of the tuitions were already set. He had given me next year's rates, so they
Okay,
weren't changed,
right.
so
So we're not worried
it
about them
wasn't
going up.
a huge
Yeah.
change.
And then, Colin, from a one-to-one infrastructure perspective, are we, because we're essentially net adding 1 grade, right? Next year? So it's just
Yep.
just the 7s until everyone's in.
No, 7 and 9 next year.
Right, because we didn't do it last year.
Yeah.
Oh, so it is 2 next year, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Is there any infrastructure, like, is it just a matter of adding 200 more devices and?
Infrastructure, network-wise, I don't think there needs to be any changes on that front. We do need to account for any scholarship applications that come from those two. The other issue is for those scholarships and the loaners that we have, we need to license the JAMP software,
Okay.
which is $10 a device. But I think there are, between the loaners, scholarships, the 2 iPad carts that are at the middle high school, and the special ed iPads, there are about 150 iPads that need to have that license that's funded by the district at $10 a pop.
And that's why we have
Yeah.
the built-in
There's some
increase for
renewals,
technology,
yeah.
just because we need to have that in there.
Right. Do we
And plus
have-
any more apps that teachers are finding, and they're finding some good ones in the PD. A lot of them are free or a couple bucks, but we just have to make sure that we give that space to find the good stuff that teachers can use in their classes.
No, I know, and I guess this isn't this year's budget. I know when we were talking about the one-to-one a year or 2 or 3 ago, do we, or whenever,
It was.
it was when Wes was here, so, is there, what is the lifespan on all of the access points, and do we need to be looking at, you know, in FY 20 or 21, sort of a capital expense?
I don't have the answer to that. I'll have to check with Ben,
Off the top of your head.
just
Yeah.
to see. He's really done some great work in making sure those are optimized the best that they can be for all of those rooms, but I don't know about a lifespan.
Okay.
That could be a big
Yeah.
expense.
So I remember, and I forget what the lifespan was, but I know they degrade, so it's not just
Yeah.
a rider's a rider.
Right, so, you know, again, right now we have leasing money in the, in the budget, so, we have to figure out what that's gonna look like if we keep that in every year. You know. So we wanna make sure we finish the upgrade of those labs, and at some point, teacher laptops are gonna need to be upgraded as well, so.
Yeah, so is that, yeah.
Yeah, technology is, an ongoing expense, for sure.
Do we have an approximate number for the how many salaries, how much money of salaries that we have on revolving accounts altogether?
Well, I think in my letter, let me just see if I can find it. I thought that's you.
Well, on the bottom of the budget assumptions, we had the school choice
that's where it
revolving
is.
has 143.
Yeah. So the
And
budget
then-
assumptions, Pam, is where you want
And
to.
number 8,
Is that D?
Number
in D,
8,
yeah.
B.
the first one.
Okay, right. So it's 143 for choice.
Well, no, that's
No.
No.
well, yes, 143
No, 30.
plus the 33 for the
Okay.
athletics. Coaches.
And representative funds. Preschool, 500, okay.
Okay, does that help you?
41, yeah, is that is that like a
It's a lot.
significant
It's a lot.
increase? Is that
No.
an increase?
No.
Okay.
No. It's what we really didn't move anything on or off revolving accounts in this budget, right? Just,
No,
No.
this is a
Exactly the
continuation
same.
of this year.
but, what happens is those positions' salaries were adjusted, right?
Right.
But
So
the,
that accounts for,
and the salary adjustment
change.
goes into the budget, correct? Not into the revolving? Is that still the case?
Well, if the re-
or-
No, the salary adjustment's in the budget.
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So the salary
Yes.
number in the revolving
That's right.
account
Doesn't
stays
change,
flat.
that's correct. That's,
Okay.
did you understand that, Pam? You know, so when there's a salary on a revolving account, let's say there's 32,000. You know, if the increase gets, the next year when the increase comes, that 32,000 still stays in the revolving account, the extra money is in the budget. That's the budget goes up by the difference.
Increase.
Except for the preschool revolving, the teachers in there.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, because
Because
that's a
right.
little more self-contained
That's-
as a
yeah, okay.
revolving account, yeah, okay. Yep, that's true.
All right, thank you.
Wish I could tell you it was prettier.
No, it's
Well, there is a
ugly
lot
there.
of change to talk about.
Yeah, there really isn't a lot of change to talk about, and as I said, even in that, breakdown by tab, I mean, the account it's really, just, there's nothing added.
Right. Were you thinking of doing a budget, for the public? Were you gonna do a budget forum? Or has anybody
Well,
been
We,
reaching out to
we
you about
certainly
it?
can if we think that it'd be interested, but we
Yeah,
also
I'm not,
talked about.
I just didn't know. if
We
you
also
had
talked
reached
about
out.
doing some kind of a podcast, which we're gonna do.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah,
So.
Suzanne is really
I
excited.
know she is, but I am, I'm kinda excited about it. Colin's gonna help us.
That's why we bought the microphones.
We
for
got,
you.
yeah,
Right.
right,
Well, we're gonna do
We're gonna
it.
be famous, we're gonna be getting into the podcast
How about
business.
that?
But, if we can do a podcast, where
Yeah.
people can literally click on it, then
Sure.
they could
Whenever they'd like.
see the information. It's just,
So unplug
what you
the
lose on
website.
that is you don't,
Huh?
we don't want to blow up the website. But what you don't want to do is, you can't have it give and take, but we haven't been successful at getting people, to things. So maybe we have to go to the people in their convenient time and see if that helps. I am gonna go to the faculty meetings and, just give a very brief overview of what we're trying to do with the budget and kind of, what we're presenting. But it's not gonna be a long conversation, but, I just feel like it's fair to the staff to hear what we're talking about.
So, and this binder is available to the staff?
Yes, well, what we'll do is we'll post it on the
Yeah, I'll put it on the
website.
website.
And then, because we want to do that in advance of the public comment. And then I'll make sure people know if you're interested in looking at the budget, then, it's available to you. And then if you have any questions or concerns or comments or support for the budget, come to the budget.
Yeah.
But yeah, whatever we can do. Michael, do you want to be involved in our podcasts?
Sure.
All right, we'll involve you too.
I'll sit next to Suzanne.
Okay. And good faces, right? No, so what do we got to lose, right? We can try something a little different.
No, I think
because
it's a
we
good
haven't,
idea.
So we have 1 million, does this sound right? $1,224,177 of salaries on revolving
Does
accounts?
sound right.
Okay.
Yeah, I did.
So that's why, how I always say to the public, we get like 14 million, $600,000, from the town, which we're grateful for. But we run almost a $16 million operation, because that's just the revolving accounts, there's also money on grants.
There's a chart, Pam, in D as well for revenue. and
Oh,
it
yeah,
does
they added
have
that this
the
year. I
pie
should
chart,
point
yeah,
that out.
yeah.
0.3 on the revolving.
The pie chart?
Because what we used to do in the past, if you remember, was just where the money goes.
That's,
Yeah.
is that the revenue?
Yep.
That might be
This
the
is the
expenses.
budget. Okay,
It's
the
the first
revenue
one.
sources, okay.
No, it's the second chart, right?
Yeah,
That's the second one.
revolving funds, okay, and that's pretty
I
close.
can't even imagine a $1
About
billion like
$100,000
Boston
difference.
was looking for.
Okay,
But you have almost $2 million,
So
that's
that-
about $1.5 million of soft money, we would call
With
it.
the grants.
With the grants and whatever.
okay.
Okay.
Yeah, we thought we'd add that graph this year, because,
It was in the PowerPoint last year.
yeah.
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 Okay.
Okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, so you can think about it, and if anybody has any feedback,
Yeah.
you'll have the opportunity to talk more about it, and we're gonna get some information, we're gonna ask, Guy about, do you have the answer to the sports charge case? Do we have that in? We wanna know.
Well, we wanna know.
You know which
If he
charge, but we
combined
wanna
it,
know.
because he gave me those figures.
You wanna
so.
know who decides that.
Yeah, who charges what?
charges what.
And that 6,300 gate fee, is that combined? Is that JV and varsity?
Yeah.
It must be,
Okay.
I would think. But yeah, just the fact that,
Are
other
there
communities
other
don't pay-
pieces
don't
of
charge.
information that you would like us to answer or get feedback, so for when we talk about this next time you have the information about it?
No.
Not really, you kind of have what you have at this point. Okay, if something comes out, just send us an email.
Yep.
Call us up. Okay, wonderful.
Okay. On your orange notes, why did it say the FY18 calendar? Was that like a? No, but there was nothing under it.
You know why? Because we're working on the calendar. We talked about this at administrative
Oh,
team the
okay.
other day, because when we were looking at, I was going over the topics we
Yeah,
talked about,
yeah.
that we'll put in the budget, we'll put in the Barbie and I worked on what topics for which meetings for the rest of the year. So I should be able to put that in your packet for next time. But one of the things we completely forgot to talk about is where are we doing the calendar?
Oh, the next year's
So the
calendar.
administrators caught, so we actually said, well, we probably better do it
Yeah.
Zoom. So we're trying to come up with the draft for the discussion for next meeting.
For the 15th?
For the 15th. We're actually, thanks to Margaret and Colin, who had some other suggestions for the calendar format, because we all hate the
Oh, I hate the
calendar
calendar format. So many other districts have, they have such a great
You're
format.
gonna love the new one.
Well,
attend
we're
the
gonna
conference.
try,
Yeah.
we're trying a new one, and Nancy's been wonderful about,
Good.
so.
draft ready, Cass.
Oh, good, she's
There you
got a
go.
draft ready, perfect.
So,
Thank you.
and then we
Yeah.
sat together, as you know, Labor Day is the 3rd,
Oh.
so I'm predicting we're gonna go
Start
after. And so we blocked in professional development days, which, Michael, I know you can have a comment on that. And then,
Are they half day Wednesdays? I would really like them to
no,
be
they're half-day
Fridays.
Fridays now.
Even
But we
better.
have a rationale for why we're gonna recommend what we're gonna recommend. But we should, so it probably was on there because I was thinking of it.
My
So
kids
next-
love to go to Florida for the weekend.
So
Just like the whole day.
Next week, you should, we'll unveil the new.
Okay, all right, so let's have
Half-day
to.
Fridays.
Who does?
Triton?
They do have
They
day
do
Fridays?
I think that most of them were Fridays, right? Isn't that what we did?
They have once a month, once a month.
Well, we'll.
Well, we could be like Hamilton and a
Have
1
every
o'clock
once a week.
dismissal on Wednesdays.
That's right.
We talked about
Since
that too.
forever.
We've had very few, and I for a while I was keeping track. Very few 5 full day weeks this
Yeah,
year
no,
so
I-
far.
I-
Like it's a very small number of
Yeah.
full weeks this year so far, and we're halfway through.
Well, I hope you will keep an open mind about
This is the first year you're feeling it.
I know, now it
about what we
matters.
want to do on those days and why, full days versus half days and, but we'll have that conversation, as we move forward. But that's why it's there, Barbie. It was probably
Okay, so it'll be next, yeah,
be next
all
time.
right, so next week we'll talk about that. Okay.
And that really should be new business. There should really be the acceptance of the donation.
Really,
Okay.
really new business.
I
Yeah.
do just want to say, I
was
went
me.
over to the high school today and looked at the
Scoreboard.
the new scoreboards, and they look
The picture
They
looked
look
great.
fabulous. Yeah, the picture doesn't even do them justice because they're huge. And
See 'em in person.
Yeah, they're really
so
great.
exciting.
So that was really nice of,
Oh, yeah, that's good.
of
And there's going to be a dedication ceremony
Tuesday.
Tuesday. Yeah. So if anybody wants to come.
Oh, that's right. I think they said 6:20, like right before the varsity game.
Right.
Okay. And the two sponsors will be there as well. But they look great. It looks really good. So that was nice to see.
So, you know what, there is
Exciting.
one other thing that Suzanne just reminded me. We probably need to, and I think Michael said something the other day when he was in, we probably should officially vote to appoint Nancy as the.
Oh, is the school committee secretary?
And the
And the
Custodian
keeper
of
of records.
keeper of records.
Records, yeah. Is it really keeper?
What did you say?
I said custodian, at least sounds.
It's not custodian.
It's not custodian of records? I thought it was.
Isn't that the soccer goalie?
No, I don't know.
The keeper.
I think.
Or the goalie.
We'll all know what it is.
Okay, can we do that in one motion?
Yeah, I think so.
Can we do that? Okay. So I'll make a motion to appoint
Nancy Weiss.
Nancy Weiss as the school committee secretary as well as the district's keeper of records.
So moved.
Second. Discussion? All in favor? Aye. And welcome,
Yes, I do
Nancy.
want to say Nancy has
Yes,
done a
it's-
great job.
yes.
She's been a wonderful addition,
We-
jumped right in.
Yeah.
A brave woman.
That's true.
And as I say, it would never be a school committee meeting without one donation at
Yes.
least, right? Because we seem to get them all the time. So we did receive a $100 donation for the food services program from Jill Shaul and her family. So I want to make a motion to approve this donation, again, in the amount of $100 from the Shaul family. It was very generous of them to do that.
So moved?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. That is
very
very
nice.
nice.
That was very nice.
And they
She saw
had
the
an
article in the paper, and she said, "Oh, how do I get involved in that?" So-
Yeah, that was nice. It's very nice. So, subcommittee reports. I think Budget and Finance, we just said it all. Governance, we do have to reschedule. Nancy, can you send out a doodle for that to Cheryl and I? Sure. And Carol for a,
This is governance?
yeah. So we figured we'll wait for you.
Oh, okay, thank you. And then we'll make sure Michael gets invited to that
Yes.
meeting, right?
Yeah.
To talk about that one issue.
Negotiations, we have met with the GEA, things are going well. Pretty much just the proposals were given to both sides, and we plan on meeting next Tuesday again to continue the negotiation process.
In food services, we also met. And
Oh,
sort of,
okay.
we exchanged proposals, and then our last meeting was canceled. We didn't set a new one, yeah.
No, because
That was my question.
the rep, right.
Oh, right.
She left, so now we're sort of back to talking to the guy who's in charge of the whole
Eric?
office, Eric.
Yeah,
So he has not gotten back to us on some dates and times, so right now we're sort of
Yeah.
on hold on
It
that.
seems pretty close.
Yeah, I mean,
Good.
there's really,
that's great.
in fact, maybe on the 15th, we could give an update on where we are with negotiations. Maybe.
Sure.
Yeah.
'Cause
Public
there may be some
relations?
things you might want the rest of the committee to weigh in on.
Sure, yeah.
So public relations, technically we met today, but we didn't talk about public relations. We talked about superintendent evaluation,
Oh, okay.
which we
Goals, yeah.
did just clearly iron out that we're gonna take out the principal search goal, which was number one,
Yeah.
but keep the remaining, there were a total of 7 So now there'll just be 6.
That'll be 5,
Sounds
because you
like
took off
plenty.
NEASC too.
Oh, we did take off NEAS. That's
Okay,
right.
5's fine.
I did
That's-
say.
Yes.
Yeah.
5 is better than 7, yes, I agree.
Oh, you did have
It's ambitious.
quite a bit on there.
Right,
Okay,
so-
so that's good.
So now
Okay.
that's set.
So that's it.
Good. And then, so you're gonna schedule
I
a
have
meeting
to-
to actually talk about PR.
Yeah.
Yes, I think
Yeah,
we might have one in the books.
We have one in the books. We
Okay.
do. Because, at one point, we sort
Yeah,
of
you scheduled
organized them
that.
out, yeah.
Okay.
So I'll have to check with that.
So we have to figure out what we need to talk about, though, is there more with the district satisfaction survey, or, is it talking about how to get the word out about the budget? At this point, we have to just decide what the goals
the
of.
agenda.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Safety?
Mhm.
Did you guys meet?
Yes, we met this morning, and let's see. So there was a parent who suggested to you, was it, that the town use the McGruff safety kits, which have been licensed by the National Crime Prevention Council, aiming to teach children about safety in a fun, friendly way. It also takes their fingerprints in case they ever get lost, and there's pictures, and it's a great thing. Lieutenant Hatch said that the police department does have a few. They've used them in the past, but he would look into getting more if they were free. And I did a little bit more research and found out, yes, indeed, they are free. So I'm hoping that, he would do that and perhaps bring that to the Health and Wellness Fair that is scheduled for April 14th. We're looking forward to that. That's going to be an exciting event. We get, good interest in traffic, and we are always looking for something fun to have for younger, students, and so this actually would fit the bill really nicely.
Are you piggybacking that on anything on April 14th?
The Kiwanis.
It is, that's the
yes.
Kiwanis Pancake Breakfast?
Yeah.
Good.
They actually
Yeah,
came to
that's
the
good.
health and wellness people and told them the date, so I think they've
Good.
they see that people are enjoying having both of us there. So we talked about, let's see, school buses. Some parents, some drivers, just drivers, are not respecting the stopping, the flashing, red flashing
Well,
lights
actually, it
and
is
the
the
stop
parents.
sign and,
Pedestrian, people who are driving.
Yep.
Right.
yeah, Are not
Going
respecting the red lights.
On the
So they're-
roads
on
or
the
in
roads.
on the
school?
roads, and so that's that's a big problem. And Vicky from North Reading Transportation offered to give to the police department directly the drivers car license plates and video. She said that they have video too. And Lieutenant Hatch said that they need the date, the time, and the location, and they can issue a ticket. They'll work with the bus company, to discuss more about that, and they will consider starting a program using unmarked cars to follow school buses to actually see this happening.
Yeah, they were very concerned about it. And the
Yeah.
bus company said that the law no longer, remember she said that, Pam? She said it used to be that the bus driver, if the bus driver turned in someone who was violating it, the registry, or
Yeah.
the registry
State.
would
That's what they told us before, the
automatically
registry would send them
send you-
something.
Yeah,
Right.
but apparently
But
that
they get
they're
a
not
warning.
They're
doing
pushing
that
it down
anymore.
to the local police
pushing it
department,
down to
so
the local.
now that we need
Well, it's
to.
just a bus driver said, I saw this license plate. And
Oh,
there's no way
correct,
of
right.
validating
Yeah,
it
nothing
or
to back it
verifying
up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, so, as long as it
So we're just gonna send
happens.
some reminders
Right.
out,
Mhm.
in this week.
A reminder, like if it says stop, that you
Yeah.
need to
It's
stop.
unlawful
I mean, that
to-
is,
Should we
That's
point to the stop
dangerous.
sign
that is
as
so
we-
dangerous.
Well, I mean,
It is.
back in the day, buses didn't have that sign.
Yeah,
I
When people stopped.
Or the big arm
Now-
that can.
Yeah, and this is
The other
kind of
thing that
blatant.
we're doing is bus drivers are keeping track of, are there areas of town, like they mentioned there's this area on North Street
Right.
where it looks like there's enough line of sight, but for whatever reason, people
That's-
go too fast and they go around the corner, and so parents that their
That's-
children there are concerned because they're saying that kids have to cross the street, so they're very nervous about, even though the bus thing is out, that if somebody comes and doesn't pay attention, worried about somebody getting hit, so.
That's where I got the idea of the parent. It was the parent that sent the
That's
email
what it
to
is.
Chief Cudmore,
Yeah,
right? Not
Yes,
right.
yes, you're right, that's.
Yes, okay. So, and the middle high school is planning a mock crash this year. We have not done one since 2013, so all the students who had seen it before have now graduated. And it's quite an event. They get the participation of Conti's Funeral Home and of course the fire department and the police, and they have cars that they donate, and they have some student actors who they get makeup and blood and everything, and they make it quite real. And then there's a debriefing session afterwards with the students where they discuss all the laws and what they saw and all that kind of business. That will be on May. Is it May?
Oh, you know what?
Is that
May
around-
2nd.
Is
May
that around
2nd.
prom season?
It's before prom, right before prom.
Okay.
So, and Officer Olszewski did an ALICE training with the Council of Aging staff. And we do need to schedule a time and a date for the high school and Pembroke, as the year goes on.
For a drill.
For a drill, yes. Is that
You did a
basically
great
it?
job, yep.
Okay.
It's not just because Officer Henry came up. He deserves a lot of credit. He is standing out in the middle of East Main Street in
Any weather.
unbelievably bad
weather.
cold weather.
Yes.
I mean, he's a slender guy, and he is
He looks like
got 15 layers on, and he, I mean, and he has help obviously, but he does a heck of a job out there.
Yeah, he really does.
And he really relates to the students too.
Yeah,
When
he's
not
really
on
very
his
good.
traffic duty, he's in the schools. I mean, it's great. I don't know, in last year's yearbook, there was the Hen House.
Yeah,
which
that's
is-
his place, that's his restaurant.
Yeah, but it's also a group at the high school of students
oh, that's
that get
fine.
together with him.
Oh, that's
fun.
great.
It's-
That's the name
yeah.
of his
For
restaurant.
his restaurant, yeah.
Oh, that's so funny.
So they're in the hen house. That's
Yeah,
cool.
But I think that's so cool.
Yeah, that is cool. I didn't realize that. I didn't know that. Yeah, that's
Yes.
great.
It's like a club. It is a club.
Oh, I think that's great.
And we, not a subcommittee per se, but we met with Mike Farrell and Mike Anderson and Carol and Suzanne today talking about shared maintenance with the town. Sort of preliminary, whatever one step after preliminary is, I would say, in terms of planning. Kind of looking, sort of next step is to go back and sort of validate how much time and energy would take and whether we're matching resources to it. So that's
A productive meeting?
productive, yeah.
Good.
Yeah, and productive and possible, it's just a matter of kind of,
That's good, because that's a long time coming.
yeah.
We were talking about that
It
years
takes
ago.
time, yeah.
Yeah,
I don't
good.
know,
That's great.
if Pam wants to talk about the Credit for Life Fair.
That was
Oh,
excellent.
sure. Oh, that was a lot of fun. I hope that the students really, got a lot out of it. It was kind of a fun and interactive, engaging way, a simulation. Students would come in and they would be given a budget, and they imagine themselves at age 25 and what their expenses would be. And there were 14 different tables, so there was housing, and there was insurance, and there was transportation, and travel, and personal care.
Vacation.
Vacation, right?
That was my
Cheryl-
booth.
Which they all, which they all
volunteer.
found out they can't afford.
Yeah, I was gonna say, at 25.
Yeah, just long weekends for them. But they found out that there's compromises they can make. I mean, for instance, like I remember when I was in my 20s and my housing was very important to me, so I spent over half of my take-home pay on a lovely little apartment in Boston. But it meant that there was no car, there was no
ate
vacation.
a lot of ramen noodles.
I ate a lot of ramen noodles. There was really nothing else I could spend money on. And it's they
Priorities.
priorities. That's right. And one boy came to me. So I was at the credit counseling booth because they have to, as they check out, they had to, balance their budget. And one boy, he sat down and I asked, how do you think you did? And he said, well, I was doing okay until I broke my leg, because there's a reality wheel, and they had to spin the wheel, and
Oh,
things would happen
that's
to
what-
them, and a broken leg costs $2,000.
If you didn't have
If you
insurance.
didn't, well,
If
right.
you had insurance, it didn't cost you anything.
Well, you have to
You're
have
still at your
insurance.
parents', it's
Well,
fine.
I think there was
Yeah,
sort of
they
an
didn't-
option
they didn't say
there for
that.
them, either to have very low cost insurance
Oh,
or
or
no
deductibles and
insurance,
things
right.
like that.
So I looked at his sheet and I said, oh, okay. He said, I don't even know what to do with that. I mean, my gosh. So he was thinking he was in major trouble, you know, and I said, you know, this, it looks like you might have gotten a good quality health insurance plan here. Why don't you go back to the insurance booth and just check it out and see what they can do for you with your broken leg? So he went back and then he returned to me and he said, it's covered. It's covered. There's no deductible, you know, I don't have to pay anything. I said, that's awesome.
Oh,
So
that's
you're
good.
doing really well. And then we re-added everything
That's
up
great.
and he did
There were
fine.
two
So-
girls who went over to try to adjust their housing. They decided they had to rethink of their housing because they spent too much on the personal care table. And I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute, why aren't you adjusting your personal care?
Yeah,
Why are you
your
adjusting your
housing.
housing? So it was really pretty funny to sort of see that, you know, the way they.
Way
You can
they
see
think,
that you can see that
yeah.
they didn't have a concept in some cases, so I hope they take
Well,
those
and they all have
lessons with
different
them.
priorities too. I
Yeah.
mean, some people,
Right.
you know, some
They do.
some young ladies like to go to the hairdresser and spend $200 a month, and they
It's so
enjoy. You know,
funny.
they look at their credit card bills, and it comes in at $300 for clothes, and maybe they don't want to. Maybe they'd rather do that than, but they have to realize they can't. You can't have it all,
Right.
not all at once,
Right.
and not in your 20s usually.
What a great fear, though.
Well, the
Well,
interesting
realistic.
thing though was they had to like buy something at every
Yeah.
booth. So a lot of times when they would come to the travel booth,
Yeah.
which is, you know, kind of
Would they buy a brochure?
well, they had four choices.
Oh.
So that, you know, the first option was like $70 a month, and it was, what was it? They would just take day trips places, you know, to the beach or to an amusement park. The second option was going on road trips, but you would stay with friends or family. And the third option was you took one big trip a year, like to Aruba or Disney World. And the last option was you took two big trips a year, and you you rented a house with other families. So, you know, and each one got
Priced
progressively
accordingly.
right. But you know, people, some of the kids, they're saying, well, I can either take a vacation or eat. but the point was they had to go back and adjust. So even
So funny,
you know,
right?
they could go on the day trips or you know whatever.
So
But
the kids enjoyed it.
the kids were
And
really
they
into it.
Were they scratching their head like, wow, it isn't,
They
you know,
well, and I
they
found
learned this is what my parents are talking about.
I found they
Oh,
were
I don't
being
know about
really
that.
responsible.
I don't know, but I think they made the connection to this is what my parents are talking about.
Yeah, well, they're like, if I'm paying for the vacation,
Yeah.
I'm going on day trips. If my parents are paying, I'm going on the all-inclusive trip.
Well, I remember my boys, that if they were paying for the shirt, they were going to TJ Maxx. If I was paying for the shirt, they're going to Macy's. Right? So, you know, I totally remember that, but they
they're-
really
That's
were,
good.
they
I'm
really
glad
were
that
great.
it
And
was a
then Henry
success.
was walking around giving tickets for like.
speeding tickets, or-
speeding
Yes,
tickets, or if they were
yes.
loitering, like if they weren't like engaged. He'd give them a loitering ticket for like $75, right? They'd have to account for
That's
that on their sheet. Yeah, it was, he had a little light, you know, like a portable blue light.
Yeah.
He walked around with them. It was really fun.
And then they did a big pizza party after, or they had?
Well, we had lunch after, and it was takeout from
It was
Subway.
Oh,
Yeah, so
that's
they-
what you were saying. Yeah, that's
different
nice. They already
type of
had them
subs and- Yes.
prepackaged and everything.
Subs
That's
and
great.
cracker, chips.
Well, and you know, Mary Lyon and Lisa Ryer really put this together.
They deserve
and
a
They
ton of
deserve
credit.
a lot of credit. It took
Yeah, it was a lot of work.
a lot, in so many details.
So will they
many
continue
things.
this?
Hopefully, yes, yeah.
Because this is the first year they
This
did
is
They
the
did it
first
with
year
a
they
grant.
did
She
it.
got a
Yeah,
grant.
She got a
Right,
grant.
so
Mary
hopefully-
Lyon.
So she's
And
hoping
Mary
she
did.
can renew the
Mary
grant.
$5,000 grant,
Wow.
yeah. So
And
it was-
is it every senior?
And it was also, it was sponsored
It's
by
every senior.
TD
Because it's
Bank
a
in
requirement.
Georgetown.
TD Bank
Which
did a
was
great
really,
job.
really wonderful. And of course, I mean, a lot of other.
That's my bank. I love them.
Yeah, yeah,
Lot of-
oh,
But a lot of other,
manager
like Red
of
Kelly
that
was
bank.
there.
Yeah.
I mean,
A lot of
Yeah,
volunteers.
Joe
wonderful.
Susie was there.
Oh,
Yeah.
he was so helpful. He came to every planning meeting, and he was just, he brought a staff of like, I don't know, 10 people, and it was, you know, and a lot of companies, local companies came and they put out their, you know, they brought, people who really have experience in the area of the booth. So, you know, in the savings and retirement area, there were people who really did savings and retirement. That's what they did. And Joe Esposito.
Joe
came and-
Esposito,
Yes,
one of
he's
our former
27
students.
And he was
did-
awesome because, you know, he's 27 years old. So he was really around the age that these kids are projecting themselves to be. So he could relate, you know, very well with the kids. And at the travel, you know,
The travel ladies at AAA gave away a suitcase. Like, it was a raffle.
It was a raffle, yeah.
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 So,
That's
and
great.
That was really nice. Tamara Schofield was there, Joe
yeah, so
Susie.
realtors were there, a lot of
Yeah.
local people, local companies.
There's a mortgage broker.
Mortgage
Well, there were
broker.
40
nice.
volunteers, over 40 volunteers.
That's great.
So for 110 students, you know, and it was
Next year.
everybody. It worked on volunteer
year.
power.
Next
and it
year.
worked well, so,
Great.
yeah.
Yeah, it was a really amazing event.
of course, I was talking to the AAA travel agents about my timeshare, and they're like, and finally I was like, oh, you probably don't like people with timeshares. They're trying to sell vacations. I said, sorry.
It was
That's
really
good.
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 Would you like me to tell you about the principal search, just so you,
Yes,
just so you know?
Yes, yeah.
Update us on
So
that.
tomorrow, I think I sent you an email on it too, so I won't belabor the point, but we're down to 2 finalists. We got 26 or 27 applications. We went down to 8 that got first interviews. We had 4 second interviews, and now we identified 3 finalists. 1 dropped out. I think she sent me a very nice email, but it was after the second interview. You know, that one of the things that's nice about a second interview is a little bit more like intimate than a first interview where everybody's asking you kind of the canned questions. And I think she just began to wonder if the leap from like nothing but big schools to, you know, small Georgetown was really going to be the best fit for her skill set. So that's fine. We'd rather know that now than, you know, maybe possibly select her and then it doesn't last or it doesn't work. So there are 2 gentlemen. Brian Lombardi, yeah. He's from Northampton, so we're all going to, it's a group of us going to Northampton on Tuesday. I said I might as well go home, it's 20 minutes from my house, but he's the current principal there, has been there for a number of years, was the assistant principal, associate principal, I think they called him, and then he stepped in when the principal retired, he stepped in, and he's been the principal there for 5 years. He's relocating to the eastern part of the state, his family here, his dad's in Tingsboro, I think, and so, you know, he's always wanted to come back to his, you know, roots in Eastern Mass. He thinks this is the right time, and so he's one of the finalists, and the other one is a gentleman named Dan Richards, who is the current principal of Belmont High School. He was an assistant principal there, and then went to, I think, Melrose for a year, and then they, you know, kind of moved him back to Belmont as their principal, and he's been their principal for 5 years there. So he's interested in a smaller school. It's going to be huge next year in Belmont. They're doing a consolidation, so it's going to be like a 2,300 student middle high school. You know, he's interested in moving to something that's much smaller just because he feels that that's a better fit for him, and he can actually do some of the things that he really wants to do. He's pretty innovative guy, and
Has he seen our budget?
well, this was the interesting thing because he talked about
What
you
things
know
he
how
thinking of
his
doing
how he's
tomorrow.
like how he's
I'll
you know
film it.
such a creative budget person. He you know the budget is really tight in Belmont, and you know how he's had to redirect, and how he figured out a way to sell the logo to
said that. That's
sell the logo.
interesting.
So now
trademark
anybody
the
who
logo.
uses it pays a royalty. I mean he's got some creative ideas. So he's a second finalist, and so tomorrow we're doing a site visit here, and I have to thank Sandra Schwarzkopf, Liz Marchetti, Ali Vieira, Peter and a couple of the students, they all sort of put the schedule together, because what we're doing is we're having both candidates come at the same time. They're coming at 9 and they'll be done by 3:30. But, you know, it's an artful, you know,
they're gonna be moving
movement.
around.
They're moving, so that all the different groups are scheduled at different times for different people, and literally the candidates
So
move.
how do they pick the students?
How did they pick the students? I'm not sure,
volunteer?
Barbie, that they've got students coming to eat with them, because we're doing a little buffet lunch. Sean's putting together a little buffet in the cafe. So the candidates will each eat lunch with a group of students, and then I know they're gonna visit some classes and actually sit in some classes. And then I think Heidi and Guy are sort of helping them kind of navigate their way through. And hopefully they'll have the opportunity to be in the cafeteria when the kids are in there and can do some, you know,
exciting.
interaction with them. But there is a schedule, and as I said, those people deserve a lot of credit. If I put together the schedule, I don't know all the time frames and all of that. So they took care of that, organized it, got teachers organized, and I took care of getting the parents. So, you know, put information out, and actually I got quite a few emails, 8 to 10 people, you know, who are gonna come in tomorrow and meet them. So then on Monday, a group of us are gonna go, there's five or six of us, a couple of teachers, a couple of parents, Colin's going, I'm going. I think Heidi's going to Belmont, and Guy's going to Northampton. And then, so we'll go Monday to Belmont, and then we'll go Tuesday to Northampton. I did create, just before I came here, a feedback sheet, so if anybody wants to fill it out, they can fill it out, and I'll collect them, and I'll, you know, review that when we're looking at, you know, what people's thoughts are. And I think we need to make a decision next week, because I want to do it before vacation. But I also want to make sure we don't lose good candidates, because, you know, they may be interviewing in other places, because as I told you before, there's a lot open. But I think it's been a good process. The people who've been part of it, it's been a big group. You know, managing that can be a little tricky sometimes, but everybody came and showed up. The kids were great. The kids had amazing, you know, insight. I think they felt very much part of the process, and you know, I think there was consensus as to who the top candidates were. So I think I'm optimistic.
That's great.
Yeah.
It's a big deal.
It's a big deal. It is a big deal, and I feel like it's a little awkward for Peter. I feel like that's tricky, but he's been outstanding.
Sure,
You
15
know,
years. is a
15
long
years, and you
time.
want to see things continue to go. But, you know, it's kind of weird when, you know, everybody's, you know, talking about the next people, you know, and here you
Moves
are.
on without you.
Well, it's
Yeah,
also
Yeah.
have all these great ideas on things we can do. It's
yeah,
like, well,
yeah. Yeah,
Well,
so,
that's good. I
so-
plan on going tomorrow. I
yeah,
look
well, that
forward
would be
to
great.
meeting
That
them.
would be great.
Good.
Yeah.
I'll be there too.
Oh, good.
Yeah, so
Okay.
that's the
Great.
update on
Thank you
that.
for the update on that.
I just have a question about, is it March 4th, NEASC? Is that a Sunday?
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
yes,
For us?
it's a
What
Sunday.
is the timing on that?
I can get you the schedule.
Do we?
It's afternoon,
too.
because I think they check in, you know, like around, I want to say they check in at their hotel around 11 o'clock, and then they travel, you know, here, and it's pretty much in the afternoon, window in the afternoon.
12:45 or something.
Something like
forget.
that. I will
12:45.
I will forward. Did you all, I think I did send
Yeah.
it to you on point, but
Yeah,
I'm happy
yeah,
to send
you
it to you
did.
again,
Yes.
yeah.
I did,
So
yeah.
I'm not going to be here
I know.
for that. I'm away from the 3rd to the 7th. And I didn't, when I saw that, I was like,
So
oh.
is Cheryl the
I
only
know,
one that
it's
really
crazy.
needs the schedule?
I have
So-
the
me too,
schedule.
yeah.
I
I remember if there was a specific. I remember reading it. And
Yeah,
Yeah,
just
so
to
I'll
know what's
I'll
email it out again?
Yeah, I
Okay,
don't know if I'll
okay.
change.
But,
No.
so I didn't see any other time that the NEAS people will be meeting with the school committee except
That's
that
right.
one.
That's
Okay.
right, that is the process.
Good.
Yeah, that is the process. So they
That's
do that
exciting,
right
too.
off the bat.
That's a big deal.
Yeah.
It is a big deal.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I'm
It's a big
really,
deal.
I'm really excited. I think that it's gonna go very well. You know, it's always good to, you know, get commendations, and it's always good to know, well, what can you do differently? And remember, it's all subjective. It's as objective as as a subjective process can be, because there are very specific tasks that they have to do, and very specific things they have to look for, very specific things they have to ask everybody they talk to. But at the end of the day, they as a group, having served on a couple of them myself, they as a group come up with, you know, sort of what they think are, you know, the things that the school does very well in relationship to the standards, and everybody gets recommendations. It would be
Did
unheard
you see
of.
what the Burlington superintendent?
Yeah, I like that.
The assistant superintendent.
Yes,
Oh,
Patrick's a good guy.
assistant, right, yeah,
He's assistant, yeah. I don't know him.
Yeah,
No.
he's a good guy. He'll be very fair, you know, and he's big into technology though, so it'll be interesting to see.
Oh, right.
Burlington is.
He's at the NASC conference
Yes.
every year, so
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I don't know him, but I like.
Yeah,
Oh, good.
Who he
You
is.
feel, yeah,
Yeah.
you feel like you know him, because you've seen him.
Yeah, exactly.
No,
Twice
that's
or-
great.
yeah.
Yeah. No,
So, yeah.
I know people have put a tremendous amount of time and effort into
Yes.
preparing for this, but
Yeah.
I hope that, you know, there's a value of just it being
Oh, yeah.
a reflective process, you
Yeah.
know, just a time to really look at what are we doing, what could we be doing, are we doing,
That's right.
I know, I believe we're doing, you know.
Yeah, no, I
it's
think
great, but
that's the whole
continuous
purpose.
improvement is really the spirit
That's right.
we're looking for.
Yeah, that's the whole
I think it
purpose.
just really encourages that a
And I
lot.
think that, you know, you can get some ideas that maybe you haven't thought about, you know,
Right.
so I think it's a good process.
Yeah.
It's expensive because,
Yes.
you know, but it's a good
Well,
process.
I mean,
in
I also
terms of-
feel it's very important to be accredited. I mean,
I do
you know,
too.
I
I do
always
too.
make the analogy, would you go to a doctor that wasn't board certified? Would you go to a
Yeah,
lawyer that
I
wasn't?
agree.
Yeah. I mean,
No, I agree.
I like to see our students in a school that's fully accredited. Yeah, I mean, we are.
And it
but
is, right?
Continues to
Right.
be.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Our goal is to get off warning. We don't want to be warning.
Right.
But I
Okay,
will send you out the schedule.
thank you. Okay, I think that's it for the regular session. We do need to have an executive session this evening, so I'll make a motion to adjourn 8:45. We do have to go into executive session, Chapter 38, Section 21, for the purpose of negotiations. So I'll take a roll call vote.
Aye.
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 Great. Thank you, good night.
Good night.